Welcome to part 2 of our disappearing historic sites of southern Alberta. We've made it to our second site that I had teased about in the last video. If you haven't watched the last video, go back and do that first. I'll wait. All right, now that you've had a chance to watch the part 1 of this episode, I can tell you that we are in Magrath, Alberta, and I am standing in front of a grain elevator, and it's the oldest grain elevator in town, and it was built in 1917. So now normally you would think that if it's an old grain elevator and I'm standing in front of it, it must be the historic site that's going to be demolished, but that's actually not the case because there are 4 grain elevators or grain handling facilities here in Magrath, and believe it or not, this is not the one we're here to talk about. So this one here is one of our what we call VBRs, or victims of bad renovations. The original part of there that's covered up in the metal siding dates apparently from 1917. And over to the left, we have an elevator I will talk about. It is also not the endangered one, but it is one of the Buffalo Slope or Buffalo Bin or Buffalo 1000, depending on what you want to call it, elevator designs. And I'll talk more about that when we get to it. And we have this concrete facility over here on the left, which is also, of course, not what we're here to talk about because concrete grain elevators just don't do it for me. So you can figure out through the process of elimination that grain elevator down there that says Alberta Pacific Grain on this side and is in Alberta Wheat Pool colors is the grain elevator that we're here to look at, document, and talk about. So to give you a quick rundown on why we came down here, 3 of the 4 grain elevators have all been owned for recent history by the same farming operation, and they recently sold the former Alberta Grain Company, Alberta Wheat Pool elevator down there to the west. And the new owner of it has decided that he wants to develop the property into something else. And so the elevator is scheduled to be demolished sometime likely in the next month. So that was really what drove us to come down here and document and record, because it's one of the wooden grain elevators of Alberta that is destined to fall very shortly. It's only been, about a 450 kilometer drive to get here. That's not far. You remember last year we drove all the way to Elva to record that grain elevator. So it's in danger of coming down. It's expected to come down. The nice thing is the owner did let a couple members of the Ogilvy Wood Grain Elevator Society go in and salvage a few documents and posters and items from inside. So that's good. We got some stuff for the society before the elevator comes down, but there's a light sprinkling of rain in the air, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get the drone in the air and get some footage of these from above. So the Buffalo Slope, or the Buffalo Bin, or the Buffalo 1000 grain elevator, it was a bit of an experimental design that the Alberta Wheat Pool came up with in the early 1980s as a replacement, or a potential replacement, for the traditional wood-cribbed grain elevator. It had a number of problems. A lot of times gravity would not allow the grain to slide properly. And it was all made out of concrete preformed panels, which didn't always fit well together, which caused a lot of grain leakage, which is kind of one of my theories as to why there's a lot of birds flying around that one and not around the wooden grain elevators. All right, another successful flight for Dronocan. That's 2 more today now. What a great little piece of tech this has proven to be over the last few years. And I know there's so many more out there now with the Mini 3s and all of that, but the original Mavic Pro still does the job just great. Emily's just taking Mabel for a little walk in the little park next to where we're parked here. But that was fun. Like I said, it was a successful flight, but holy crap, there was a lot of birds up there above the Buffalo Bin elevator, and a few close calls there. But yeah, it was an experimental design, very unique design. I remember being a kid driving through Magrath, always having to take a look at it because it was so interesting and so different from all the other grain elevators we'd ever seen on the prairies. I remember as a kid, I was not a fan because I'm a traditionalist, even at a very young age, and I didn't want to see the traditional grain elevator get replaced. The Buffalo Slope never really took off. There was a couple other design changes made. If you look at the one near, I believe it's La Alta, and one in Foremost, they're a little bit different. But they never really took off. They got replaced by the more modern concrete terminals before they ever really got a hold or a foothold. So they're a unique anomaly, and in that sense, I find them interesting. So still not as cool, or, you know, from a traditional perspective as the wooden grain elevator, but nonetheless, very cool artifact, a really cool little piece of history, and I'm glad we got to do it as well as the other elevator that is set for destruction. Sad, but it is what it is. It's not the first one to come down, and it won't be the last.
So it was a fun day of exploring 2 very different places. The first place was much more mountainous and treed with a lot more water. We're kind of out in the high desert of the Badlands here out in Magrath, but they both share a common thread that they're interesting pieces of history that unfortunately will be gone soon, but hopefully our video can help them live on.
Right on, that says it as well as anything. So on behalf of Mabel and Emily and myself, thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next episode.